And welcome back to my channel. Unless you're new here, and then it's just welcome. My name is Rusty, and this is me channel where I talk about my favorite movies, mostly horror, and my favorite music, mostly metal. And first, I want to talk a little bit about patience. I think they should coin a new phrase, and it should be, instead of the patience of a saint, it should be the patience of a film collector. You can always spot a film collector in horror movie comments and review comments and stuff like that when you see someone saying, yeah, I picked up that movie a while back, but I still haven't sat down and watched it. Or, yeah, I picked that up, or I have had that for a while, but I haven't gotten around to seeing it yet. Unlike normal people, film collectors are easily spotted in that way. I have 2,400, or approaching 2,400 Blu-rays and DVDs, and there are literally hundreds of them that I need to sit down and watch and haven't gotten around to it yet. And the reason that I'm bringing that up is because we are going to talk about the new Halloween trilogy. Now, Halloween was released in 2018. It starred directed by David Gordon Green, written by John Carpenter, Debra Hill, and Jeff Fradley, and it stars Jamie Lee Curtis, Judy Greer, and Andi Matichak. And when this trilogy was announced, I knew it would be a very long time before I would see it. And I know normal people, because film collectors certainly are not, I kind of knew I would not be seeing it for a very long time because I knew there were two more to come and I wanted to see them all together. Now, a lot of normal people out there might go, how could you sit on a movie for years even without ever watching it after you bought it? I mean, what if you died in the meantime? That is a legitimate concern, especially in this day and age. But my response is always, well, you do know that every person who got up that morning and got hit by a bus on the way to work, you do know they had plans for the evening. They had plans for the weekend. They had movie tickets or concert tickets that they were going to a concert 6 months from now. So that's just a part of life, and you just have to deal with it, you know. So the reason this is such a prime example of patience is that it's been 5 years since 2018 was released, and I of course watched all the fighting in Reddits and Facebooks and forums about them, and you pick up little bitching here and there, but I ignore most of it. This came out on physical, and I bought it, stuck it over there. When Kills came out, I did the same. I bought it on physical and stuck it over there. Of course, I was tempted a few times, but, I wanted to enjoy my plan. When I finally got a hold of Halloween Ends, when it was, released on physical, it sat over there until the right time, and the right time was yesterday, and I finally got to sit and watch this trilogy for the first time, and, had a great time, and I'm glad I have the patience of a film collector. So, Halloween 2018 opens in a mental hospital where we are introduced to Dr. Sartain. He is being interviewed by Aaron and Dana, who are podcast makers, who want to interview him about Michael, and they want to interview Michael as well. He gives them permission, and that's a pretty cool scene, and you're like, this is not a good idea. Especially when Aaron, who has gotten a hold of Michael's mask, pretty much offers it to him. Like, I've got your mask right here. He wanted to see how he would react to it. He barely reacts to it, but at the same time, you're like, yeah, you're dead. Because he knows who's got it. So I think that really played into the mythology about what Michael has become and what the mask is and all that kind of stuff. But The patients start to freak out. They leave. We're then taken to Haddonfield, where they are looking for the other half of the story. They want to interview Lori. She won't let them at first until they offer her $3,000, which she then lets them in. And let me tell you, I love the Jodie Foster movie Panic Room. I've heard of a panic room, but I have never heard of a panic house and a panic compound. Bitch was geared and ready to go. You know what I mean? So that was very interesting to see. You could tell that it had been an obsession the whole time. They interview her a little bit, asking pretty inappropriate questions, about her daughter, and we learned that she was labeled an unfit mother. She has a very strained, barely there relationship with her daughter Karen. They ask her if she will speak to Michael, which is her cue to tell them your time is up. Your $3,000 is up with that question, and makes them leave. Now we are introduced to Allie and her mom Karen and Karen's husband Ray. So we are introduced to them. There is an upcoming Halloween dance, and Allie's going to go with her boyfriend Cameron. And this is a side note, pretty irrelevant side note, to most people anyway. But this is the ugliest male cast in a movie that I have seen outside of a Rob Zombie film. Now, granted, they don't have the white trash element, but they are still, Oscar, Dave, there's no crush material, not one, in either of the first two of these movies. I'm talking, those dudes are ugly. There's fugly all over the screen. I know, it's irrelevant, but it had to be said. So they go ahead and they go, they're going to, we are introduced to him. He comes over there for dinner, or she gets them to agree to meet him for dinner. But she asks her mom, did she invite her grandmother to this dinner, which she says she did and she couldn't come. But Allie knew that was a lie, because she, unlike her mother, actually wants to have something to do with Lori, but her mom doesn't. They do have the dinner, and, Lori shows up. Now, Michael is being transferred to another facility. Earlier, before the dinner, she had went and sat out in the parking lot. So she saw Michael for the first time in 40 years at that moment. So she probably wasn't really in the best frame of mind for a dinner. It doesn't go well. She ends up storming out. Allie follows her and, tries to talk with her about letting things go and same old stuff, So that was a big fail. Karen comes out there and says, "I told you so." And we get to see flashbacks of what Karen's life was like as a child, being raised by Lori and preparing every day for the return of Michael. So, that was pretty interesting. We then get to see a father and a son who is driving, going hunting. They're kind of having a little discussion about how he wants him to hunt more, but the boy likes dance class. I don't know what that conversation was supposed to be an allegory for, but it wasn't like a fight or anything. It was just a discussion. When they come across a bus crash, the bus is in the ditch. The patients are loose. The man gets out, tries to see if he can help. The boy gets out, can't find his dad. The boy even goes onto the bus and accidentally shoots Dr. Sartain, who unfortunately lives through it. You don't think unfortunately at this moment, but you do later on. So that scares him. He runs and jumps into the car. And they had already called 911. So, but he jumps into the car to take off, and Michael's in the back seat and kills that poor little boy. And I'm like, okay, Well, you're not playing this time, are you, Michael? So I was pretty shocked that they had shown that, him killing the kid. But like evil knows your birth certificate, you know what I'm saying? But still, thankfully, in one of the movies we see he has the opportunity to kill a baby and he doesn't. So obviously he's got some line. I think he just have to be in his way. The boy was driving the car. He needed the car, right? How did he remember how to drive after 40 years? But this is a demon or whatever now. So, see, we're going off into mythology here. But he's now on the loose. We see that he's stalking that dumbass Aaron who had showed him the mask. That was, guaranteed death sentence right there. He manages to find them at a gas station where Dana goes to the bathroom where Michael attacks her. Aaron runs in because he had went in to pay, only to find the cashier dead and the mechanic in his underwear. So Michael now has the mechanic suit, which I'd really like to know what the fuck is up with that. One of those mythology questions. We'll never know. So he's got his mechanic suit. He beats Aaron to death. He kills Dana. And he now has his mask and his mechanic suit, and off to the races we go. So he's on the loose. The cops get there and realize that Michael is on the loose at the bus thing. So, everything is going to hell now. We then see where Lori learns that this has occurred. And she's, of course, like I told you so. She shows up at Karen's house, goes in there and scares the hell out of her. I can't believe I could get in this easily. Michael's on the loose. You've got to come with me to the compound, which she refuses to do because she don't believe it. So Cameron and Dana, Dana's dead. Cameron and Allie, they go to the dance where typical teen crap, you see, some girl comes up and kisses him and then it's all shit from there and he throws her phone into the pudding. Why, shouldn't it have been punch or something, but it was like custard pudding? I thought that was interesting, strange, like out of nowhere. Like, shouldn't that have been a punch bowl, but it was full of custard or something? It was really weird. But, so he throws her phone in there. She's walking home with Oscar. Lori and Frank, who is one of the original police officers back in 78, they're all talking with the doctor, trying to figure out, the plan. We've got to find Michael, right? So Allie is pissed off, and her and Oscar are walking home and talking. We see that Frank and Lori and the cops arrive at Karen's house. They try to keep calling Allie, but remember, her phone is in the pudding. So we get to see Oscar get killed. Allie has seen Michael now. So she knows that shit's up and runs. Frank picks up Allie and to take her to Lori's, he finds her where they are all showed the bunker. That bunker was really neat too, where you remote control and your whole bar moved out of the way. I'm like, this is something like out of a zombie apocalypse shit, so that was pretty cool. Like I said, I've heard of a panic room, but I've never heard of a panic house. That whole house. Did you notice in every doorway there was she could mash a button and a cage thing would come down over the door? I'm like, bitch was prepared for anything. You know what I mean? Talk about getting the shit scared out of you. So they all go there. They gear up for the final, showdown. Frank slams into Michael because, Michael's on the way, back there in town. So when Frank saw him, and we learn as this trilogy progresses what Frank's deal is. But Frank is like, the doctor doesn't want him to kill Michael, hurt Michael, which should have been our first sign right there. But it doesn't take long before we know. He ends up like hitting him with the cruiser, hitting Michael. And he gets out to finish him off, but the doctor won't move out of the way. And then he turns around, and what you think is, that he killed Frank, because, he cuts Frank's throat open. And Allie is trapped in the car where the doctor then puts Michael in the back seat with her, and they all take off to go to. So it's not like Michael knew where Laurie's house was, but the doctor took him there. So we find out that the doctor was like assisting. So that's the reason why I said that I'm almost positive like the doctor is who helped him escape from the bus, because the doctor is crazy. Unlike Dr. Loomis, this guy is crazy for real. And his experiment, his psychological theory is the only thing that matters to him. And he wants to see this, he was always jealous of Dr. Loomis is what it was. Because Dr. Loomis had, quote, seen him in the wild, and he had not. He had only seen him in the hospital setting. So he actually wanted this all to happen, and he wants to see this reunion because he wants Michael to say something. He's obsessed with Michael. So Allie manages to escape from him, though, even though he has stabbed Frank. And as they get towards Laurie, they run into these two cops sitting out there that we had heard banter. And they, of course, next thing we see is that cop car pulling up. Ray sees it, and he goes out there to talk to them. And they're dead ugly, And the showdown begins because he kills Ray, which was pretty sad. Well, Ray was an idiot. He was like really... He kept reminding me of like Al Bundy or something. He's that kind of idiot. That's the kind of, that's the character Ray kind of reminded me of. So they go to Laurie's because he wants to see the reunion. Allie is running towards, because she's running towards the place. The cop car arrives at Laurie's. Idiot Ray is what I wrote, gets killed. Laurie makes Karen get in the bunker, and then Michael and Laurie have the big fight. What did I put? Showdown begins. Allie arrives and is immediately scared about all the shit that she sees, and the showdown continues. We see Allie finally get into the house where Karen quasi rescues her by opening the bunker and getting her down in it. Michael then tries to get into the bunker, and we don't really know what's happened to Laurie other than they have just beat the hell out of each other pretty thoroughly. And he does manage to rip the bar up and get in there to the bunker. And Allie and Karen are there, and Karen ends up shooting him. And I like the way she faked Michael out, because she started like screaming, "Mom, I can't do it," because he won't come to the opening. He's not that stupid. So he wouldn't come to the opening, so she started screaming, "Oh, Mom," and play crying. "Mom, I can't do it, I can't do it." And, and that makes Michael then stand up, which shows the boy still has some sense. You know what I mean? So she's able to fake him out, and the second that he steps into view, her face straightens right back up, and she's like, really? And shoots him in the face, and then Lori jumps out from behind him, and they end up trapping him in the bunker with this steel mesh that comes over the opening. They then, I don't know what you would call that, the final fail-safe, you know? But the whole house has been rigged to burn itself to the ground. I'm talking like there's little propane vents everywhere throughout the house, not just in the bunker. But, you know, it's just, the more you learned about this compound of hers, the more you were amazed. Like, this woman had a mission. So even by the end of the movie, you're still seeing new stuff in this place. So now that he's trapped in the bunker, she like hits the self-destruct button, which is basically what it is. And the whole place goes up, and you get to see how this fiery self-destruct system was set up through the whole house. And the three of them escape while the house is burning down. And they jump in the back, or they're picked up by this farm truck that's driving by. And they leave the house as it's burning down and drive off into the night. And that's the end of the first part of the trilogy. Now, did I like it? I gave it a 9 out of 10. I loved it. I loved it. I still don't really see any reason to take out Halloween 2. Because, you know, everybody says, well, it's Halloween, and then it's 2018, and this trilogy. That everything else is gone. Well, I agree with everything else being gone, but I really don't see the need to take out part 2. You can just say that that's when he was arrested and put in the mental institution. Yes, Dr. Loomis set him on fire, but Michael's been set on fire before. I mean, you know, in other movies, it's not like... but so... I kind of really include this timeline as 1, 2, and the trilogy. That's kind of what this timeline is to me. But if you want to take out number 2, that's fine. But I just don't really see any reason to. I can watch 1, 2, and the trilogy as one timeline. And I don't see part 2 as really interfering. I understand the fire thing like I just explained. But it's not like Michael hasn't lived through worse. The suspension of disbelief is very strong in this movie, like most horror movies. So I gave it a 9 out of 10. I really, really loved it. I loved how they're really diving into the mythology of Michael Myers, what, when, where, and how, and what has all of this become. Look what it's done to her. Look, you know, her family. So yeah, and I loved it. So that is part 1 of this trilogy. And I will be back to talk about part 2 next. I, of course, left out a lot. It's not like a lot of you haven't seen it. So, yes, I've left out a lot, but you got the main gist, which is what I'm going to do with these films. I am definitely on the fanboy side of this movie. I loved it just fine, and will probably piss you off in the next 2. Gotta have controversy. So, yeah, that was Halloween 2018, and I will see you in the next one. Love you, miss you, bye. Always remember and never forget, you're a very, very special person, even if you are not holed up in a panic house with traps worthy of Rambo. You know what I'm saying? Girl was messed up. I'll see you. Bye-bye.